What's going on, guys? I'm Bill and welcome to Bill's How To. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to install glass pool fencing. Let's get straight into it, guys. Let's do this. Alright guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to install frameless glass pool fencing. You're going to save yourself thousands of dollars by doing it yourself. I've got my glass already ordered, sitting on a side. The company that I used is called Frameless Glass Pool Fencing, surprisingly. Initially I just wanted to use their website for the calculator. The calculator is going to allow you to put in the measurements of the glass panels that you need, and it'll automatically calculate how many spigots you need, the spacing between your glass, and the size of the glass panels. So that website alone is definitely well worth getting having a quick look so that you can at least use it for the calculator. That was my initial intention, and then once I had all the measurements, I was going to shop around for some competitive pricing out there. And surprisingly, their prices were very, very cheap, so I ended up buying it from them as well. Now unfortunately, I've already started some of these spigots here, and if you're not sure what spigots are, they're these little feet here that the glass sits on. I had recorded for a few hours and then didn't realize that my shutter wasn't opening the whole way because it had some dust or paint or something that was stuck inside. So half of that footage is gone, but I'm going to show you guys exactly what I've done. So we've got three sides here that need to be fenced off. This boundary fence here is sufficient because it's over 1.8 meters high. The next thing you need to factor in is the distance from your water's edge to your actual pool fencing. Now, in Australia or New South Wales anyway, anything less than 1250 from the water's edge to the pool fencing needs to be earthed, or the spigots need to be earthed, or you can buy plastic spigots. So there's always a way around it so that you don't have to earth it, but I made sure that all my distancing was at least 1250 away from the water's edge so that I don't have to have any issues with earthing these spigots. So we've got these ones here measured at probably about 150 mil off the edge of our slab here. Now we're installing this on a concrete slab. The spigots, I'll show you guys how I installed them in a second, but there's a couple different options. You can have ground mount ones, which are like this one here. So they just basically bolts to the surface, or you can core hole drill the actual area. That's going to cost you a lot of money, whether you do it yourself or you get somebody else. It's still going to be expensive to hire the equipment. So this is going to be the cheapest and pretty easy way to do it anyway. So all we've done is just run a string line from one side, get the distance here. Our surface here is nice and square, so I can use that as a reference point. String line all the way across to the other side, making sure that everything's nice and square. And then what I've just simply done is put in my glass panel location. So there's going to be a bit of talking here initially because I've already done all of this, unfortunately. So we've got our spacing that has already been calculated or factored in from that website calculator. It was pretty easy. Just run a flat tape all the way along the ground here and just mark up the edge of my fence panel locations. Once I've got the edge of my fence panels, I think there still might be some markings here. So that's one side of a glass panel, one side of a glass panel, and we've got our spacing in between, or our gap between the glass panel. All I did at this point was just simply calculate how far back my spigots need to be from the edge of the fencing. And that's going to differ depending on the size of your glass panels. There's an online table that you can have a look at. I'll try put it in the description below, or I might actually put it on screen now so that you guys can use that, snap it, take a photo of it, and you can use that as a reference point. Once you've got that, you can then space out the centers, which I did. You can see there I've got a pencil mark on the center of every single spigot location. Simply drop it in place. I took a spring-loaded center punch and I just marked all the locations, and I also marked them out with pencil just in case. Moved that spigot away and then I drilled out the holes. So if we have a look here, this is one that I had to redo at a later point. So basically everything's sitting in, my string line's sitting nice and straight. You can see there I've just got it hard up against one side, or just off the side actually. So if I'll just move that, you can see it's not even touching, but it's right on the side. Take your spigot, the grub screws sit on the inside of the pool, and you can see there we've got a little plastic sleeve. Just simply slide that in, drop that on our center line that we've got here, and then just make sure that our string is actually sitting where we need it to be. So we can move this one here until we're 100% happy with that location. And then I just simply mark out these holes and drill them out with the rotary SDS hammer drill. Now I might have some footage of that, or if not, I'll do another one so that I can show you guys. Now with regards to mounting it into the floor, you've got a few different options. What I was going to use initially were these anchor screws right here. So these anchor screws work pretty good. Just simply drill out the hole, screw them in, and they'll bite in on the concrete. Now this one here is a concrete surface underneath, or a concrete slab, nice and thick, minimum 100 mil everywhere, all around that surface. So I'm not going to have an issue with strength. But what I've decided to do instead is use some anchor studs. Now anchor studs are basically just a threaded rod. Okay, this is going to be a lot easier, probably even a little bit more secure. I like it, it's more of a permanent fixture. Once they're in, you're not getting them back out. I prefer this to a diner bolt. So all you have to do is, like I said, drill the hole, fill it up with some adhesive that we've got here. This is an anchor adhesive. Fill the hole up with this stuff, and I'll show you guys how we do that in a second. Get your little stud, drop that all the way into the hole, and just leave a little bit hanging off the top. So we just want probably about half of that top thread exposed like that. And then we've got a nut and a washer, and we just simply tighten that on once the adhesive is set. Now this stuff here is unreal. Sets in 5 minutes and it's ready to take on a full load in about 40 minutes. So this stuff here is pretty awesome to use, and that's exactly what I'm going to be using. So I've got my other side that I've been working on now, and I'm going to start marking up all these locations as well. Hopefully that sun isn't too bright. So we've got my little corner here. This is going to be the return. I've got some bracing as well, which I'll show you guys later. And I've got my feet marked up, or the spigot locations. So once again, nice big visible line so that I can't get that wrong. String lines running all the way to the other side, and that's dead straight. I've also measured it off the slab as well to make sure my slab's all straight. This string line is all straight. With this kind of work, you need to make sure that you measure or double check your work, triple check your work before you actually do anything. So everything's been marked up, all our locations. We've also got a gate going here, and that calculator that I mentioned before, it gives you all the measurements. So once you've got everything lined up, you can then take your spigot, put the grub screws on the inside of the pool, slide that one there underneath, line up your string line so it's just off the edge, as I showed you guys before, and we're going to center this section here roughly. Center punch, punch that one in the middle. The center punch is going to stop the drill bit from wandering around. So once we've got that center punch, you can then take a pencil, just put a little circle around it in case you struggle to find it later on. We're going to move down, do the same thing on the rest of the spigots, then we'll come back and we'll drill these out. Now I drilled that one there out with a 6mm bit. I'm going to follow through with a 10mm just to try and reduce the amount of chipping. It will chip regardless, but just to reduce it so it doesn't blow out too much. Repeat the process on all the holes. So once you've got your hole completely drilled out, what you want to do is take a little wire brush like this one here. This is a hole cleaning brush, and you just want to push that into the hole and pull out any of that loose debris. You can see there we've got plenty of loose debris. Before we start fixing this using our adhesive, we just want to make sure it's completely clean, or as clean as possible. So give it like 3-4 entry and exits, and just vacuum all the debris. And now we're ready to put in our adhesive and our studs. So when it's time to install our rods, what we're going to do is take our adhesive. Now this one here pre-mixes in the nozzle, and we're just going to simply fill up this hole, making sure you've got a decent amount in there. Then we're going to take our spigot, making sure the grub screws are on the other side, line it all up. Now you need to make sure that this is in the exact final position. Then you can take your rods and just try and thread them through if you can. If not, just jiggle them around up and down so that you don't push as much of that material out of the way. Get them down to a nice level or a nice height, because you need to make sure that your cap is going to clear this top section here. You might want to start pushing it or rising on its own, so just tap it back down again. Repeat the same process for all sides, and then you can remove any of this excess glue. You want to make sure you remove all of it, because in 5 minutes this stuff is going to be rock hard and it's going to give you a headache trying to remove it later on. Leave that in its position, move on to the next hole and repeat the process all the way along. So once everything's set, then you can take your washers, drop them over the top, take your nuts, put them on hand tight, and then we're going to follow through with our socket set. Put them so they're nice and snug, follow that all the way through, and then take your cover plate and slide that straight over the top. Alright guys, so now we've got one side of the glass fence panel up. What we need to do now is make sure our spacing is correct. So if you take a tape measure, you can run that on the bottom. We've got there about 19 mil. You want to check the top. Once again, we've got about the same distance, and just make sure that the top of your glass is level. Okay, so if we move down, that one there's fine. This one here, we've got a bit of a difference. So you can see here the gap is a little bit bigger than it is on the bottom. Now that could be because your floor's out just slightly. So what we're going to do here, we've got here about 23 to 24 mil. Down the bottom, we've got exactly 20 mil. So that means we need to shift this top section of the glass over just about 4 mil in order for it to close and line up properly. You can see also this glass here is higher than this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to pack up that left side of the glass panel just slightly so that we can tilt that glass back into place. That's going to close our gap up, make it nice and consistent. Our glass will also level up, and the way you do that is by using these packers. So these little packers here come with your spigots, and all you need to do is just simply slot it underneath the glass like that on the base of the spigot, and that's going to pack up one side. So what we're going to do in this case here, like I said, we need to close that top gap. So basically if you imagine the glass just shifting over a bit like that, that means we need to pack up this left side here. Could be about 1 mil or 2 mil. So each packer is about 1 mil in thickness. So we're going to try one, check it, and if we need to pack it again, we'll add in the second one. Alright, drop it down. So we've got one packer in. We still need to make a bit more adjustments. I'm going to add a second packer. Alright, so now that we've packed up that left side, if you come and have a look, the top of our glass panels are now level. If we take the tape, we've got 20 mil there. Check on the bottom. Once again, we've got exactly 20 mil. So that's an easy way to adjust them. Now with these ones here, once you tighten the grub screws from the back, I personally don't like the amount of flex that's in the top. So what you can do is add an additional brace on the top. That's going to help you give it a bit more rigidness. And what we want to do is use these ones here. So these little braces here simply clamp onto the top. We've got an Allen key wrench. You loosen that, slide that over the top, and that'll brace the top part of the glass. So that's going to give you a lot more strength, and for me personally a lot of peace of mind. So I'll be installing these as well, but right at the end. First thing we're going to do is just adjust all this glass, and then we're going to get ready to install the other side. All the glass panels are finally in. I've got everything leveled off, so all my tops are sitting nice and level all the way around. I've braced off all these corners. You can see there, that bracing right there, I would honestly recommend it. I'll show you guys how much flex there is in the glass if you don't put the bracing. All the tops are sitting nice and flat now, all the way around. So this one here, I've tightened up the grub screws just to show you guys how much flex there is in the top of this glass. So this is all screwed in final position, no bracing. And you can see just how flimsy the top section is. Once you put the brace on, it becomes nice and solid. I haven't screwed in the bottom grub screws yet, but if we do the same thing on here, especially on that corner bit there, nice and rigid. We haven't got a brace yet on this side here. You can still see it's wobbling away. Alright, so once everything's all level, what you need to do is work out your spacing. So I've got all of these ones here lined up. Obviously, top and the bottom is going to be the exact same size because we've now got everything leveled off, but we just want to make all the gaps nice and consistent. So you can see there, our gaps are nice and consistent all the way along. This one here needs to be shifted over a bit. And once everything's in place, it's actually pretty easy. Just hold on to the glass, give it a little push, and you can squeeze that one there in. So if we have a look at that spacing now, and this one here, that's all looking pretty consistent. You can take a tape measure, measure them all off. Once that one there's done, we can start installing our braces. Now our braces here are going to be sitting on the top. You can drop them down about 100 mil or so from the top of the glass. But what I'm going to be doing is actually covering this little certification or compliance sticker that they've got here on the glass. So I'll try cover as much of that as possible. So that's exactly where my position's going to be. So this is the brace. It's pretty simple. Just got one screw on one side. It's got some padding on the inside. Simply slide that over the top, both of the glass panels, and you tighten it up. Now to get everything nice and consistent all the way around, I'm just going to be using a packer, and that'll give me a bit of a guide. Put my finger on the top, get that nice and flat with the top of the glass. That's looking pretty good there. Then we can take our Allen key and tighten that one there off. Once that's done, you can get your level, drop it on top if you're really OCD. Make sure everything's nice and level, which this one here is. Move along and brace all of them off. Once that's done, we're going to tighten up the grub screws on the bottom of our spigots. What we're going to do next is tighten up all these grub screws. So this is going to fix the bottom section of the glass to the spigot. Just simply tighten them up till they're nice and snug. Move on to the next one and repeat the process all the way around. So all the panels are completely installed and fixed in place. The only thing left to do is our gate here. I'm working on my own today, so I'm going to try and get a little bit creative. I've got some packers here installed on the bottom. What we need to do is make sure that our packers are just slightly higher than the base of our glass panel here. That way the actual door is going to be sitting proud by 10 mil above this glass panel. That way when gravity does its job, it's going to give it just that little bit of cushion for a bit of sag. So the instructions aren't the best for this thing here, but these are called Polaris hinges. Apparently they're really good quality. When they go to close, they snap, and you've got a slow close right there. Looks like it's about to rain, so hopefully I can get this done beforehand. I'm going to take our Allen key, remove our backing plate here. We're going to do that on both sides of this hinge so that it's completely ready to go. So with these hinges here, you want to make sure that your adjustment screw or your adjustment location, the bottom side doesn't have one, is always facing the top. So these hinges here, well, this face is going to be exposed on the outside. And we're just going to pull these two covers here off. Alright, so for whatever reason, there's not much information here, but this is how it slides in, and you can see we've got a little spacer here, or it's actually a pretty large spacer, which is this section right here, that actually comes off. And I don't know why it doesn't mention anything about this in the instructions, but that is definitely not going to fit there. It's probably designed for a different type of cutout. I'm assuming. Would have been nice if they told me. So I'm going to take that off. We'll slot this one here over the top after we put our little packer in. So that packer sits underneath on this side. That goes directly over the top. Now I'm just going to try to square this off from now as much as possible with the side of the glass panel there. And I could just saw some lightning, so I'm pretty sure we're only going to get halfway through this. Might have to continue it in a bit. Tighten this one here up. Do the same thing on the bottom hinge. So now we've got our top and bottom hinge on, packers are out, everything's looking pretty straight up on top, so that 2mm gap worked perfectly. What we're going to do now is make some adjustments on the hinges to make sure that it closes on its own and that everything's lining up. The way you make the adjustments is by using our little increments here on the top of the hinge, making sure that we want to try keep everything maximum 1 click apart from the top hinge and the bottom hinge. So there's a little indicator, you can see there a little notch out on the side. Once again, there's one over here, and we can see this is a couple clicks out anyway. So what we're going to do is most likely try and reset these ones here. To reset it, you push down, click it over to the left, and we're just going to loosen that up completely. Okay, so that's right at the start now. Now they're in both the exact same position. It's basically not doing anything at the moment, so we're going to start off with our adjustments. To adjust it, just simply put the wrench in and click it over once, making sure to pay attention to that little notch. They need to be in the same section. Which now they're both exactly in the same location. So test out our gate. It's going to need a fair bit of adjustment, this one, because we did reset it completely. We'll give it 2 clicks. Alright, it's starting to close now. Alright, so now we just need to keep playing with these hinges until we get it exactly the way that we need it. So I'll continue to work with this, and once it's done, I'll see you guys in a bit. So it's now time to install the latch. What I've realised is this little plastic bit that we had on the hinge as well is a little spacer simply for packaging. It would have been nice if they told me that to begin with. So we'll take this little cover here off. That can go out. Now with these ones here, the latch has to go on the inside because it's a glass pool fencing, and we'll line these up with the holes that we've got here. Alright, so with these ones here, they can be adjusted anywhere. They just use a little grub screw. So we're just going to slide this one here on first, line up where our latch is going to go. That's looking pretty good there. Check it again. That's a perfect location. So we're going to tighten up these grub screws. Time for the final test. Perfect. So this one here comes with little caps just to protect the screws from the weather. Pop all of those ones there in. Now for the top of the hinges here, the top one comes with a little cap, an O-ring and a screw. The bottom one is slightly different, just for safety reasons, so nobody climbs up. So that one goes straight on top. Tighten that one on. And with the bottom one, it's slightly different. This one here's got a little pointy section, and that's designed to prevent people from being able to use it as a foothold and trying to climb over the fence. So once again, screw that one there in, line it up in the final position, and then just tighten it off. And once it's all done, this here is the finished product. Super happy with the way everything's turned out. Everything's absolutely flawless. Dead level. Perfectly straight all the way along. Our gaps are nice and consistent. These braces make the world of difference. They're not only going to help you line everything up, they also provide a lot of support on the top of the glass so that you're not relying just on those spigots alone. So these braces here are definitely worth the money. Make sure you get these if you're installing it yourself. But everything's looking super nice now. These hinges here, if you're installing glass panels for a pool fencing with one of these gates, I'd honestly recommend these hinges. You can see that nice controlled close, and that's super important when you've got glass, because you don't want that constant slamming all the time with the latch closing super quick. So that controlled hinge there, the Polaris hinge, I'll put a link in the description so you guys can check them out. There wasn't that much price difference between this and the cheaper alternative, but definitely worth the money. My only concern at the moment is these panels are so crystal clear that I'm most likely going to have birds flying through it. I get a lot of birds here every day, and I'm a bit worried that they're going to start flying into these glass panels, but we'll find out one way or another. A few things that I learnt along the way in case you're considering doing it yourself. Number one, you save thousands of dollars by doing it yourself, so it's definitely worth spending a bit of time and just doing it yourself, because you're going to save a lot of money. The hardest part about this whole process was not the marking out, not the calculation. Obviously that online calculator makes a world of difference. Marking out was pretty simple and straightforward. The issue was drilling out all these holes. We've got 34 spigots here that we had to drill out for. Each spigot, as you guys saw, has 4 holes. So it's about 130, 140 holes that we had to drill out for all these spigots here. That took a super long time to drill out. We're going through a concrete slab and porcelain tiles on top. So anybody that's drilled through porcelain knows that it's pretty hard to drill through it. But we did get through it all in the end. It just took a super long time. So be prepared. All these holes here do take a long time to drill out, but this is going to be the easiest and cheapest way to get your spigots mounted. The glass panels are pretty heavy, so you're going to need a second set of hands to install them. If you guys know anything about swimming pools, let me know in the comment section below, because this is the first swimming pool that I've ever had. So with regards to cleaning it, obviously it's pretty dirty at the moment. It's winter now, so we're not using the pool, but I still need to clean it. And I've been using the manual broom with the suction hose going through to the skimmer box. I'm looking at an automatic pool cleaner or a robotic one. Robotic one is super expensive, so if anybody has any idea about those robotic cleaners or automatic ones, let me know in the comment section below so I can test it out, and I might even do a video, because I don't really know too much about the maintenance and upkeep with regards to the pool, salt, chlorine, all of that stuff. This is all new to me, and I'm going to be learning on this swimming pool right here. All in all, definitely worth it. Hopefully you guys know exactly what needs to be done if you wanted to do it yourself, and what's involved. The actual glass panels themselves, with the spigots, all the hardware, everything like that, cost me, I think, just under $5,000 delivered, which surprisingly is apparently cheap. Glass is pretty expensive, but that was the cheapest that I could find it. So just under $5,000 for the whole pool fencing here. In terms of linear meters, I think we had about 8 and 8, that's 16, it was about 17, plus this long run here was another 12, so that's probably about almost 30 meters worth of glass paneling, about $5,000. So now that you guys know how much it costs, and installation will probably be at least another $2,000-3,000 on top of that. But we got this one here done DIY style and save a lot of money. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the videos, you've learned something new. As always, like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Bill. Thanks for watching Billshowto. Handy tip for you guys: make sure you put on your cap before you install your glass. Now we're going to have to remove all these glass panels, put the cap back on and reinstall the glass.